Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. The live stream severe weather update for tomorrow, along with what's ahead tonight, will be starting here in just a couple minutes. Alright, good evening, everyone. This is Jacob Melton here in the Southern Michigan Weather Center, live with you on this Tuesday evening. And I just wanted to take a little time this evening to discuss not only what's ahead tonight, but also the latest on what we're expecting in terms of tomorrow's potential severe weather event. First off, starting here at the regional satellite and radar loop over the last few hours. You can see it's been relatively quiet over our local area, except we've been seeing clouds steadily increase throughout the day. And you can see off to our west some rain, not only rain, but even some snow and some wintry mix across portions of Wisconsin, back into Iowa and Minnesota. That is expected to eventually push in our region as we head later into tonight and into tomorrow morning, which will bring not only some rain showers and maybe some thunder, but to our south, but for those of you that are further north, especially near and north of the M46 corridor, we do have some wintry precipitation to start for your Wednesday morning especially. There are some winter weather advisories in effect for our counties near and north of M46 for the potential of some light snow and ice accumulations on the order of potentially a coating to 2 inches in terms of snow, and between a glaze and 1/10 of an inch potentially in terms of ice. And the same goes for those of you in northern lower Michigan, which, especially in northeast lower Michigan, they don't need any more ice. They've already had a big ice storm up there that's been causing lots of problems up there. They don't need any more, but unfortunately portions of that region appear to be getting some more unnecessary ice up there late tonight into tomorrow morning. Well, let's go ahead and switch over to our other source just for a minute. And we'll go ahead and go through this evening on our computer models. This is the latest high-resolution rapid refresh model, also known as the HRRR. And taking a look for tonight, as you can see, our rain and wintry mix is off to our west. That will continue to move east towards our area, especially heading into the overnight hours of tonight and into Wednesday morning. And as you can see on this particular model run, it does have a little bit of wintry mix near and just south of I-96. That will lift north through the morning hours and will continue probably through about noon or so before it heads out of our local area. Let's go ahead and take a look And as you can see, not only do we have the wintry mix to the north, we will also have the chance of some thunderstorms from time to time, as well as to our south, near and south of I-96. For those, we're not particularly expecting severe weather with the activity late tonight and into tomorrow morning. That's not really our focus for severe weather. I will show you in a few moments our very small portion of our areas in a level 1 out of 5 marginal risk for tonight. But I really think any severe, low-end severe weather threat late tonight and tomorrow morning will stay off to our west. But again, the wintry precipitation will lift off to the north through the morning hours, and we will eventually see a warm-up, some of us may eventually see the warm-up, and we'll have to discuss more details on that in just a moment. And that is where we will have to bring the severe weather potential into the discussion. Let's look over at our Storm Prediction Center outlooks. And I will pull this up just to point out that for those of you in southwest Berrien County, southwest of Benton Harbor, you are technically in a level 1 out of 5 marginal risk for severe weather. Again, I think any severe weather should generally stay west of our area of the already low-end threat. But if somehow a rogue severe thunderstorm was to make it, the primary threat would be some isolated large hail, maybe up to quarter size. Again, I think the majority of it will stay off to the west, but with portions of Berrien County technically being in it, we just want you to be aware of it nonetheless. But again, I think most of it will stay off to our west of the already low-end threat. Moving on to tomorrow, which is really the main topic here. As you can see, most of our coverage area is in a level 2 out of 5 slight risk. And for those of you near and south of the I-96 corridor, so Grand Rapids, Lansing, Detroit, or Flint and Point South. I know Flint is I-69, but from areas like Grand Rapids, Lansing, Detroit, Flint, and Point South, you are in a level 3 out of 5 enhanced risk of potential severe weather tomorrow afternoon and evening. We do believe that there is some uncertainties that we will have to discuss here in a moment that could temper our severe weather threat down, but again, this is just something that we really need to be aware of, is if things come together just right, we could have a similar event to what we've just had this last Sunday across the region. So we want you to be well aware of this potential, but also be aware that there's some factors that could cause this thing not to perform as to what is potentially being forecast here. So again, most of you north of the I-96, I-69 corridor, you are in a level 2 out of 5 slight risk, and those of you near and south of the I-96 and I-69 corridors, you are in the level 3 out of 5 enhanced risk. Taking a look now at the tornado potential, most of our area is in the 5 to 9% zone for probability of a tornado. So most of us, like Grand Rapids, Lansing, Alma, Flint, Saginaw, Mount Pleasant, and Point South, which is the vast majority of our coverage area, you just be aware there's the 5 to 9% probability of a tornado, which is still relatively low, but it's something that once we start getting there, we will have to start paying attention for the potential of isolated tornadoes. And down to our south, across Indiana and Ohio, excuse me, you can see not only is that the 10 to 14% probability of a tornado, you can also see the hatched area zone here. The hatched area is at or greater than 10% probability of a significant tornado. And we consider significant tornadoes to be anything in the EF2 to EF5 range. And while we're not outlined in that particular zone here at this time, given the environment and given this very strong wind shear in place, if we manage to get sufficient instability, I cannot necessarily fully rule out an isolated strong type tornado here. Again, the potential of that is rather low at this time and very contingent if we can get enough instability in to our region ahead after the morning convection that we will have across the area during the morning hours. Moving on to the severe wind outlook, and this is by far the main risk that we're expecting across the area tomorrow afternoon and evening. This is similar to what we really had last Sunday. The potential for widespread damaging wind gusts, and some of those wind gusts could be on the significant side, similar to what we had on Sunday. Again, the greatest confidence of that is currently along and south of the I-96 and I-69 corridors, where there is a 30 to 44% probability of severe wind, although it does say within 25 miles of a point, so technically in the Lansing area, within 25 miles of there could be the 30 to 44% probability of a severe wind gust. Further to the north, if you're north of the I-96 and I-69 corridors, you are in the 15 to 29% probability of severe weather. Although again, excluding the FUM region, the vast majority of our coverage area is in the hatched area again. And again, the hatched area indicates at or greater than 10% probability of a significant wind gust, which is at or above 74 miles per hour. That is hurricane force winds, and it is similar to what we've this outlook is these probabilities are again similar to what we've seen this last Sunday. In fact, I think it was a little higher. We've had the 45 to 59% contour across portions of our area, just without the SIG outline, but as you can see, we've had significant damaging winds in spots anyways. So again, this is by far our main threat with tomorrow's potential severe weather, is the potential for, again, numerous to, I cannot rule out, again, widespread damaging wind gusts between, we'll say, 60 and 80 miles per hour, although, as you've seen, on Sunday, we've had isolated higher than that. But that's our forecast in terms of wind right now. And let's finally go over to hail. I do not particularly think large hail will be a very big issue compared to the damaging winds and isolated tornadoes, but nonetheless, we do have the 15 to 29% probability of severe hail, which is at or above quarter size in diameter, or 1 inch. And again, the yellow shading is the 15 to 29%, which covers a vast majority of our area. A small portion of the FUM, you are technically in the 5 to 14% probability. And you do see portions of far southwest Michigan basically burying in portions of Cass County, maybe a small sliver of Van Buren County. You are technically in the hatched area, which is at or greater than 10% probability of significant hail, which significant hail is considered at or greater than 2 inches in diameter, or roughly a hen egg size hailstone. And I do not think hail's a particular concern, but still, we cannot rule out the potential of some large hail, particularly if we can manage to get any isolated cells ahead of the main line, the eventual line that is what he expected to move through during the evening hours. All right, we went through our outlook. Now let's move on to the computer models. I will need to switch this to we'll start off with the HRRR or HRRR from earlier this afternoon. This run goes a little bit further out. We do have new high resolution model guidance coming in over the next few hours, which we will be able to view and get a better idea of what exactly we can expect for tomorrow. There are some uncertainties we still need to deal with, which we will discuss here over the next several minutes. So again, starting off tonight, again, we do expect the wintry mix to start off our Wednesday morning. The wintry mix will eventually lift north. In fact, I will switch it to a different view so it's easier to tell for later on. So again, our rain, thunderstorm activity, and wintry mix to the north, that will eventually lift off to the northeast through the evening hours. And Again, none of this activity initially will be severe in nature. This will just be, you might hear some thunder, you might see some heavy rain, hence which did the flood watch you've seen on our scrolling at the bottom of the screen. We will discuss those in detail a little bit later. But once again, a little bit later. But again, none of this activity should generally be severe. Maybe some gusty winds, maybe some small hail. We don't necessarily expect the severe weather until later on in the evening, because as you can see, this will start to lift out, and that will allow some time for some of us, and that will allow some time for the better moisture and instability to surge into portions of our area. And you can see off to our west, this is at 5 o'clock in the evening local time, Eastern time, which is our local time zone. You can see some cells beginning to fire off to the west across southern Wisconsin and Illinois. And again, back down into Illinois and Missouri. That will eventually lift into our area again towards the evening hours. This is at 8 p.m. local time. As you can see, there's some nice line of convection and then additional convection off to our south. That will continue to move east during the evening hours, and we'll have to show the environment in more detail, but there is a potential again for severe weather, although there was also some uncertainties we will have to discuss here over the next few minutes. All of this activity will be eventually out of here probably about by 2 a.m. This is 8Z, or 6Z is 2 a.m., excuse me. And that after 2 a.m., any instant, we don't really necessarily expect severe weather. As you know, at that point in the night, we have the surface inversion set up, and that will probably put a lid on the severe weather for the most part once we get to that point. Now let's move on to some of the uncertainties. I will start off with the HRRR model. Dew points, so we'll go to the ones to the wind barbs. And we will go out to, this is at 12Z Wednesday morning. As you can see, the dew points are still well into the 20s and 30s at this point. Any convection overhead would be elevated and unlikely to be severe. But you could see off to our south and west, you could see the 50s and then well into the 60s dew points, which we expect to eventually surge in our area later into the afternoon and into the evening hours. Heading through the morning, you can see that. And we will stop here at 2 p.m. As you can see, our moisture and the instability we were looking for, which we will show instability here in a minute. But our moisture is near the Chicago area in the Indiana and Ohio. Starting again in the southwest Michigan at 2 p.m. Heading into, let's go 8 p.m. And as you can see, our moisture is now generally along and south of the I-96 corridor. This is at around 8 p.m. So now the uncertainty, which I will show other models to discuss this uncertainty, is how far this better moisture will be able to reach. If you're north of it, we don't necessarily expect severe weather, and if you do, it'd be maybe a stray hail report or a gusty wind report or something like that. It is anywhere along and south of the eventual warm front or boundary that we would have to watch for the severe weather. We'll go a little bit later. We'll stop at 11 p.m. And as you can see, again, it's generally set up, we'll say again, along and south of the M46 corridor into the thumb. You can see it starting to surge in. The upper 50s is 60 dew points, and it would be anywhere where the better moisture can get into that we would have to watch for eventual severe weather. And again, we don't expect particular severe weather probably around 2, 3, 4 o'clock at the latest. And as you can see behind it, the dry area will come back behind the system. Let's switch over to another computer model. Another computer model we look at is an AM3 kilometer model. And it shows the same general idea heading into tomorrow morning. Again, We'll stop here at 8 a.m., 8 a.m. As you can see, anything over us at that point would be elevated in nature, unlikely to be severe. Our moisture is off to our southwest, and that will begin to surge into our area heading into the afternoon and into the evening hours. This model is a little bit more aggressive with the moisture, again bringing the 60s dew points up to, we'll say, around the M46 corridor, maybe a little bit north of there, but mainly the M46 corridor and points south, if the NAM solution was to verify, is where we would have to watch for potentially significant severe weather. Again, similar idea, that pushes out by 2, 3, 4 o'clock, maybe 5 o'clock at the very latest, but probably closer to 2, 3 o'clock is when we'll be wrapping up the severe weather threat. Let's go pop back over to the HRRR, and I will show you another severe weather product we look at, and that is surface-based CAPE, or surface-based storm fuel, which is a parameter we look at to determine if any storms will be able to become surface-based and therefore more likely to produce more significant severe weather, whether that be significant damaging wind gusts or tornadoes. And we will go to 18Z. That is 2 p.m. on Wednesday, and as you can see, most of our surface-based instability at that point is still off to our southwest, but will lift north. Heading later into the evening, we'll stop at 8 p.m. As you can see, we have about 800 to maybe 1,000 surface-based CAPE or storm fuel near and south of the I-96 corridor. This is according to the afternoon run of the HRRR. Again, we are going to be getting some new data here over the next couple hours, so we will have to see if there's a better agreement among the model guidance then. But as you can see later on in the evening, like by 11, midnight, and especially after 2 a.m., any instability is very weak in nature, and therefore after about 2 a.m., probably at the latest, I would think our severe weather threat, if it does indeed come to fruition, will be done with. We're going to switch over to it, and we're going to switch over now to the NAM 3 kilometer model, which so far has been showing a more aggressive solution. And again, we'll stop here at 18Z, or surface-based CAPE is off to our southwest, but we'll advect in our area like by 8 p.m. This is a little bit slower with it too, but across southwest Michigan, you're over 1,000 surface-based CAPE, and that lifts up a little bit further, again 1,000 to about the I-96 corridor, and even to the M46 corridor, you're in the 500 to 1,000 surface-based CAPE or storm fuel. So again, the NAM solution, we would have to watch for a little bit more significant severe weather potential if that solution was to verify. And again, our instability weakens after 2 o'clock, and around that point, maybe 3, 4 at the latest, any severe weather threat would be done. Another product I'm going to show you here is the Significant Tornado Parameter, or STP. This is just a composite showing the ingredients of instability and wind shear and turning with height, and it takes all that and displays it into an easy to reference graphic to show tornado potential. And this is at a fixed layer. This is not a perfect product, but it's a good thing to look at just to give a general idea of potential for tornadoes. Heading into tomorrow morning, again, not much really going on at that, well off to our southwest, but nothing in our local area at that point. And heading into tomorrow evening, we'll stop at 7 o'clock. As you can see, STPs are elevated across southwest lower Michigan. As you can see, we've got 2s, 3s, and 4s across southwest Michigan. That, again, and this we will show you as we head a little bit later, heading into like 02, so that's 10. We'll go to 10 p.m. As you can see, it lifts up north of the I-96 corridor, and we'll say the M57 corridor, we'll say. up to the M57 corridor at 10 p.m. Again, we have elevated significant tornado parameter numbers in the 2s, 3s, and 4s. That is elevated, and we would have to watch potentially for isolated tornadoes. And if we get enough instability in here, I cannot rule out 1 or 2 of those tornadoes being on the stronger side. Again, EF2 to EF5 in strength. The better certainty of that, again, it's well off to our south, but this is something that will have to be watched throughout the day tomorrow, and even tonight when we get new model data. Again, that will eventually weaken heading into the overnight hours as we lose as we get more stable. And what I will do is I will show you a sounding. Let's go southwest lower Michigan. In fact, I will put in KAZO. That is Kalamazoo. And as you can see, we're looking down here. We are the surface-based cape is over 1,200, and you can see the incredible wind shear at that point. Nearly 50 knots in the 50 knots or so in the surface to 3 kilometer layer, and you can also see there is turning of the winds with height looking at the barbs. In fact, incredible amount of wind shear in the lowest 1 to 3 kilometers, 0 to 3 kilometers. And that would allow any storms that were to get into this environment to rotate and potentially produce a tornado. If not a tornado, significant damaging wind gusts. This is on the NAM solution, which has been the more potent of the 2 solutions. I will go ahead, actually let me pull that back up. This is Kalamazoo we're pulling up. And I will go ahead and switch it to the HER model, which, come on now, it'll load here. There we go. And the HER is showing a little bit different solution. I may need to back that up one, because the HER is a little bit faster. Let me go 0Z. See, we'll go 9 p.m. And that shows, again, not as much instability, but with the incredible wind shear. Incredible wind shear of over 50 knots in the surface to 3 kilometer layer. And when we get that much wind shear, it may not take as much instability as you might think to get something to come down to the surface, whether that be damaging wind gusts, potentially significant, or a tornado. So still some uncertainties we need to resolve, both on whatever the morning convection does and how much and how far the instability is able to affect northward. Again, we will be getting new model guidance this evening, which we'll discuss this in further. One more thing I wanted to show you before we go here is not only do we have the severe weather threat, we also have a heavy rain threat to deal with as well. We have flood watches in effect for tomorrow across portions of southeast lower Michigan, including the Detroit metro. Details have been scrolling on the bottom of the screen. And we'll go ahead and show that here. So all this tonight and in tomorrow morning, that's mixed precipitation. We'll stop at 12Z. Not really too much precipitation then. Heading throughout the afternoon and evening hours is when that changes. And we'll go to 12Z. And as you can see, it's showing 1 to 2 inches of rain in spots. A widespread 1 to 2 inches for the most part, excluding this on this model. We'll switch over to the blend. The blend does a reasonable job. This is we'll go Thursday morning. A widespread 1 to 2 inches across the region. Across all of our region. As you can see, I'll highlight a few of these higher amounts approaching 2 inches. The blend doesn't really show that, but we will have to watch any areas that have training of thunderstorms. Wherever the train of thunderstorms set up is where you can get some isolated amounts above 2 inches, like maybe 2.5, 3 inches, so on and so forth. If we can get any areas to where thunderstorms will train over the same area. In fact, I will switch back over. Let's just use the NAM. Find the NAM. I'm going to go back to composite and show you what I'm, hopefully show you what I'm talking about here. It's just taking just a minute. So again, this is activities. All this activity here will unlikely be severe. Just some heavy rain makers and maybe some loud thunder, maybe some small hail and gusty winds at worst. But you will have to watch this. Like, see, we have, let me back that up. Like this area, I'll circle around here. You can see we have storms training over the same area. That is where you can get some of the heavier precipitation rates, and we will have to watch for localized flooding potential. Again, a flood watch is in effect for southeast lower, including portions of southeast lower, including the Detroit metro. As you can see, it clears out for a time, and then we have more storms fire up during the evening hours, and we will have to watch those for potential severe weather, including damaging winds, some gusts potentially significant. And looks like we're getting some frame drops. Give me just a second. Just bear with me, guys. Okay, there it goes. Sorry about that. Networking problem. But we're back. Okay, so let me go back to what we were discussing. So again, we'll stop at 0Z. As you can see, we have our storms back off to the west that will eventually track this way through the evening hours, and we will have to watch that in particular for potential severe weather, including damaging winds, some significant gusts possible, and potential tornadoes and large hail as well. Alright, so I still have some viewers here. If anyone has any questions on what to expect, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and I will do my best to answer them. I will allow a minute or two for that to facilitate. So bear with me about any frame drops. We are working on some solutions. And hopefully in the near future that will hopefully resolve that. I guess while we're doing that, we'll look at a couple more things while see if there's any questions to be asked. Let's take a look at snowfall. Again, this is particularly for the areas in the winter weather advisory near and north of M46. And as you can see, through tomorrow morning, we are looking at the potential of 1 to 2 inches of snow. And for some of us, particularly to the north, between a coating and 2 inches of snow if you're lucky enough to get in some of the heavier amounts. And taking a look at the icing potential. This is through, we'll go through Thursday early afternoon. I think this model is overdoing it a little bit, but generally between a glaze and 1/10 of an inch, and some localized spots may get up to a 1/4 inch of ice. I think that'll be the exception and not the rule. But as you can see, especially northeast lower Michigan, that is not what that area needs, is more ice. And one more thing I will show you. I'm still not seeing any questions, so we will probably get off of here in just a moment. The other thing I want to show you is the wind gusts. Wind gusts will become elevated again heading into tomorrow, potentially over 40 miles an hour at times, according to the NAM model. Let me go over to her to verify this. Yeah, wind gusts will get elevated again. Probably 30 to 40, maybe higher at time wind gusts into Wednesday. And this is not what northern lower needs in particular with the ice. Hopefully there's some melting up there, because that will just make the problems worse in terms of trees coming down, taking down power poles and stuff like that. They're already having a hard enough time up there. They don't need any more of this, but unfortunately, that is in the forecast again. And we'll have to watch. The 40+ mile per hour wind gusts will be outside of any thunderstorms. Any thunderstorms that might develop that could easily bring 60, 70, maybe 75 mile an hour gusts down to the surface. So that is something we'll have to watch as well. So I'm probably going to let you go here before we do that. I will review the outlooks. Again, level 2, slight risk to level 3, enhanced risk of severe weather for tomorrow. Greatest potential for severe weather at this time is in the enhanced level 3 enhanced risk zone, which is near and south of the I-96 and I-69 corridors, stretching the I-69 stretching from like Lansing to Flint, from like Lansing, Flint, and Grand Rapids and Point South. You are currently in the area where we're thinking there will be the greatest confidence for potential severe weather on Wednesday. Areas further to the north is a little more uncertain, but we will have to watch trends throughout the day. And just know that some of you, maybe up to Alma, Saginaw, if some solutions play out, you may end up at a little bit higher risk of severe weather as well. That is something we will just have to monitor throughout the day tomorrow. And as for tomorrow, we do plan to have live updates throughout the day as conditions warrant. We will probably, as soon as watches begin to get issued, we will probably put up a radar live stream once again, similar to what we did on Sunday. And we will cut in the said stream when any severe thunderstorm warnings are issued. And if any county in our coverage area ends up under a tornado warning, we will be live non-stop with coverage until the danger is over. So, this is Jacob Melton here in the Southern Michigan Weather Center. We're going to wrap up this update for tonight, and I will likely see you back here again tomorrow. Stay tuned to Southern Michigan Weather. We will keep you advised.